Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and tonight we've got a full house. Welcome tonight, Mac
Good evening.
and Gio.
What is good, everyone?
On today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing match week 2 of the new Champions League, and we'll preview the upcoming Premier League matches taking place this weekend. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on our social media, both on X and Instagram. Our handle is at House of_Footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are on both Spotify and YouTube. And lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email. We love hearing from you guys and want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. All right, Joe, I'm going to toss it straight to you,
Yes.
brother. Of course, we had a lot of Champions League action. I also have the table that we have further down in our doc here that you can sort of pick out at. But any of these past games that took place on Tuesday and Wednesday stood out to you, Gio, that you want to cook with?
Yeah. Let's talk about the elephant in the room in terms of us being from Canada. I know Mac obviously was quite happy to see this result, but a 1-0 win from Lille against Real Madrid off a Jonathan David penalty. Honestly, hey, shouts out to the Canadian proving his worth out there in Europe. But definitely a horrible look for Real Madrid. And let me break it down. You had your typical starting 11, obviously minus Mbappe, but you see what they've done with said starting 11 in the past. So, expectations, especially in the Champions League, Real Madrid's always held to I would say a different bar, knowing how many they've won, how often they've won, how much they prioritize this competition. I think it was a horrible result. And then leading into that, speaking on another team's success, they are playing Borussia Dortmund next game. So that doesn't bode well. If these types of players that you have, your Judes, your Vinnies, your Rodrigos, can't produce a goal on Lille, can't seem to score, can't generate much offense. Looks like a lot of lateral play, not up and down play. Should you be worried going in? Because right now they are sitting 17th in the table. That's not very Madrid-like in any way, shape, or form. So it's gonna be. It could be scary times for them, if they struggle to, say, get a point or even a win against Borussia Dortmund, which looks like a tall task, seeing how well they have Borussia Dortmund have been playing.
Exactly. Dortmund are first place right now. 2 wins out of 2, 10 goals for, 1 against. I believe they won quite heavily against Celtic this past week, but again, I haven't kept an eye on that, but definitely excited that Gio pointed that game out to us because it looked like, it should have been a pretty regular Real Madrid win, is what most people would have expected. But even without Mbappe, but I'm not sure if you guys saw, even when Mbappe came on, Madrid didn't have too many chances until like the scramble towards the end of the game, and there was even an instance where Jude Bellingham is frustrated at Mbappe and Vinicius for not really tracking back and doing their defensive work, trying to help the team progress up the field. So not a good look there. Any thoughts on that, Mac, or any other games that stood out to you?
For that individual game, it's going to be interesting as we're talking about the second round of fixtures in this league phase, where you see the table. It's not really kind of taken form yet. A lot of teams are on 6 points. A lot of teams are on 4 points, and that kind of what makes up majority of the top half, where everyone's scraping into some of the bottom teams are trying to just get into the top 16 versus kind of I would say the more like well-known or experienced Champions League performers are trying to fit into that top 8, where you get that extra bye where you can kind of save yourself a little bit more. So realistically, I think you're going to be in a position where it's going to be tough to say how much this result is going to impact for Real Madrid, particularly where maybe they went in a little bit. We don't need to play at our best. This isn't kind of a game that we absolutely need to win. Maybe took little bit light going in, and that's kind of why you got the result that you did. Where I would assume if this was game as let's say it was against a Bayern Munich or a Man City, you probably would have seen a different level of hunger or desire, and even, to be frank, quality out of this Real Madrid team. So I don't want to take too much from it, but I think it's an interesting note going forward, as we don't know what these types of results can do in this league phase, where previously before in group stage, if they won 5 of 6 of their games, they would have been fine, right? So if they just tossed away one like this, no sweat. Now, in the league phase, does this push them now because everyone else wins out? Theoretically, yeah, not likely. But if everyone else does, then does that put them outside of kind of the Elite 8 in essence, where you're kind of, I think you're guaranteed to move on through and you get that extra bye? We'll have to wait and see. In terms of another result that interests me, I'm going to stick close to home, and no, not Canada, but we're going to go with Arsenal's result, 2-0 against PSG. For me, if that would be, if you were to look at who are the two heavyweights facing off each other that realistically could get deep into this competition, this was the headliner for me for this past round of fixtures. Arsenal walked away with a 2-0 win, and again, the interesting part for me, looking back, is really kind of how the game ended and mapped out. And what I mean by this is where Arsenal won on goals, also won on expected goals, but again got killed in possession. So this is a continuation, it seems like, since Arsenal from the beginning of the season, where even when they're at home, they're comfortable without the ball. And I think this is very much like another evolution of this Arsenal team under Mikel Arteta, where you saw the first couple of years they were trying to build expansive attacking football and try to be able to create as many opportunities as possible. Whereas now, when you're looking at arguably the best back four in the world, if you line up based off recent performances, I think in terms of since the beginning of 2024, of all their games across all fixtures, they have 17 clean sheets, I think, across like 34 games. The only team with more was Real Madrid with 18. So you're talking about some of the best defense in the world, where they're comfortable now out of possession, where they only had 36% of the ball, still created more opportunities. And when you look at the areas, the pitch of where PSG held the ball, it was all in their own half, where they just couldn't figure out a way to break between the lines of the Arsenal back four and their midfield. And that's where they struggled. Whereas, again, when Arsenal did get the ball, they found key areas to be able to break down. You have players like Ricardo Calafiori, Jurgen Timber in the first half, playing from full-back positions, getting up and advancing further into pitch. And then lastly to speak is where, in regards to Arsenal's success in this, is where set pieces, they seem to have kind of mastered it in some ways, where the Saka goal, that is the epitome of what you want as a coach, as you're telling players, what do you want to be able to do for a free kick? Even if no one touches it, let's still get an attempt on net, right? And that's exactly what happened through all the chaos, through everything that was going on. Donnarumma was waiting for someone to make a touch. Nothing did occur. Still went all the way through for him. And even though he was poor on the first goal against Kai Havertz, again, it really shows Arsenal's evolution, where even in the small margins of games, like set pieces, corner kicks, stuff like that, they have now put themselves in an elite level. So for me, it's a great sign, another great result from a big competition. So it looks like Arsenal are here to stay in the Champions League for potentially quite the long term.
And of course, that's the hope. With this win, it looks really much like they are here and announce themselves, because we previewed this one, Mac, saying this was a test for Arsenal, not in the sense that they're not favorites to win, because I think we all could agree that they were favorites to win this game, but in the manner that they did, because they were able to shut PSG out. They didn't have really much to show going forward. And it was a statement win in the fact that they can now be seen, and most opponents now should respect them as one of the elite clubs in this competition. So just a quick word on that. Gio, anything on this game before I bring something interesting to you guys about this PSG side?
Nothing really on PSG, but yeah, like Max said, Arsenal just look like they belong and look like they've always belonged and look like they've been in this competition and dominating this competition. They almost remind me, I guess, just not to say the play, but that sort of fearfulness of the opponents. They almost remind me of certain like Bayern Munich teams, where you just know that they're gonna be strong and you're gonna struggle against them because they're gonna play their way and they're gonna have their way. They're strong in the midfield even without Odegaard. I think they understand their roles now, much like how Pep coaches his teams. Is everybody has their role and everybody understands their role. They don't try to do too much, too often. But they do their jobs to an 8 out of 10, which allows the team to flourish. So yeah, no, Arsenal is definitely should, and if not, should definitely be feared in this competition.
Fantastic, fantastic. Before we move on to a game that I want to bring up, I want to bring up in comparison, of course, what PSG and no disrespect to League On, what the situation looks like at the moment. So what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm going to have you both choose a respective league. So we're going to compare the League On to the Saudi Pro League. So Gio, I'm going to let you choose. Which one would you rather, I guess, speak in favor of for this situation?
Probably the French league.
Okay, then Mac, you're gonna unfortunately by default be the Saudi Pro League. So I'm gonna name a player that I will read out, and then first, Gio, you're gonna have to tell me does this player play for the French league or the Saudi Pro League? The first player, Gio, is Kurt Zuma. Does he currently play in the Saudi Pro League or the French top league, Liga?
Kurt Zuma currently plays in the Saudi Pro League.
That's right. That's right. Fantastic. Mac, for you, my dear friend, Adrian Rabiot, does he play in the Saudi Pro League or in the Liga?
Liga.
That's great. That's great. So you guys are right so far. Gio, I'm going to toss it to you. Said Ben Rama, does he play for former West Ham player? Does he play currently in the Pro League or Liga?
I know this one. He currently plays in the Saudi Pro League.
That is incorrect. He plays in Ligue 1. Transfer from West Ham. Mac, for you, Renan Lodi, former Atletico Madrid left back. Ligue 1 or Saudi Pro League?
Wasn't that the guy with Nottingham Forest for
That's
2
right.
minutes? For 2 minutes?
That is correct.
For no goddamn reason. I'm gonna go Saudi Pro League.
And that is correct. He does play for the Saudi Pro League. For you, Gio, one more for each player, just because we're entertaining me at this point. Khalidou Koulibaly, does he play for a team in the Saudi Pro League or Ligue 1?
This is a tough one.
Former Chelsea defender, of course.
Koulibaly. I'm going to go on a whim and say Saudi Pro League.
That is correct. Correct. And so, Mac, I will find one for you. Give me one moment. I had one in the back of my mind, but I might have to dig a little deeper. No worries. I have one here for you. Let's go with Hussam Aouar, former player that was linked to Arsenal from the French league.
Yeah, he played for Lyon.
Currently plays in French league or Saudi Pro League?
I'm going to go Saudi Pro League.
That is correct. So, guys, it's not really a competition or anything. It was just an exercise to show you how far, unfortunately, the Ligue 1 has fallen in terms of the popularity and names. Not saying that the level of play has fallen off. So, I guess to Arsenal fans, great win. But I would say PSG being the best team, I don't think it's the biggest win out of all, considering what we've just gone through. So I will then move on to my quick game. Quickly, we have to talk about the man of the hour. I think it was Jamie Carragher's favorite striker in Europe at the moment, John Duran, and Aston Villa, of course, beat Bayern Munich 1-0. Gio, of course, this was a game that Mac and I previewed because it was an interesting one, but I don't think we really expect this result. Aston Villa really played with the home crowd a I would like to say a English style game where it was the way they got the goal was very much front to back, sorry, back to front, very quickly, very direct, and really not necessarily trying to break through Bayern Munich. Whereas Bayern, of course, with their pedigree, they were trying to more so create with from deep and link up play through the midfield to sort of get into the attacking third. But of course, Aston Villa got the win here. What are your thoughts on that game, Jim?
Hey, they're just week after week proving themselves that they belong with the big dogs. Obviously you can argue, oh, they just narrowly, beat Bayern off a Bayern mistake. That wasn't a mistake. Because I know Mac mentioned this. Neuer loves to push up off the line and play like a 12th player on the pitch, a 5th defender, some would say, as the sweeper, for lack of a better term. And he's been doing this throughout his career, kind of being that pivot for the defenders. And, who other than Duran, who's known to score bangers in the Premier League and in Europe these days, to score that from that yardage is it just really goes to show that it doesn't matter what stars you really sign, it's how you put the team together. And I think this Villa team in the past couple of seasons are huge exemplars of that. It's team chemistry over anything. It's who you put on the pitch, not just the name. It's just so fun to watch. And that being said, I know we'll get into this a little later, but Man U play them next week. Scary times for Man U fans, myself included. I was just talking about this off the air, but it's gonna be long days for a lot of teams because Villa are they're clicking on all cylinders. So yeah, it doesn't matter who they play. I don't think they're really scared of anyone, to be honest.
Well, we can definitely point out a big player or a player that had a big role in the goal, and that's of course Manuel Neuer. A lot of people could argue, shouldn't have been in that position for that strike. But on the flip side, Mac, Emi Martinez looks like a big game player. Great saves, really won or kept all 3 points for Aston Villa at the end. I think he denied Harry Kane in either the last play or the second last play of the game. What are your thoughts on how Aston Villa pulled this result out of the hat?
In terms of the individual result, I want to take a step back in terms of even just how they built their team. It seems like in a lot of ways, it's like an island of misfit toys because we're talking about players like Pau Torres, who got a lot of flack coming over from Spain in regards to he's good on possession, but he's not that great out of possession, and he had a goal disallowed. Yuri Tillemans was a player a lot of top teams in Europe were looking at, but no one picked him up going to Leicester or after Leicester. Amadou Onana was in rumors for everybody, but they're the ones that got him across the finish line. They even were able to salvage a player like Ian Maatsen and save him from the Chelsea experiment, right? Stuff like that. And Martinez from Arsenal, where they were like, he created a problem by being so good that they had to get rid of him to have Bertrand Little as a starter to then move off of to Aaron Ramsdale to now to David Raya. You can argue that it's an upgrade over time. Sure, I won't quibble with you there, but I mean, Martinez is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So how they've built and structured the team and the players that they've signed, that for me is the start. And there's a clear line where, and not to use, I apologize, Gio, not to use the Manchester United example. I was listening to a different podcast they're talking about. I think Unai Emery came to Aston Villa around the same time Erik ten Hag came to Manchester United. And Aston Villa were 18th in the table at that point to now they just beat Bayern Munich 1-0. So there is a clear line of pre-Unai Emery to to current Unai Emery in terms of how this team has been structured out. So the decisions they've made, the players they've brought in, absolutely phenomenal. I think if we're talking about just individually the goal, for me, I think it stands out where even though Ollie Watkins was not on the pitch when that occurred, it was the fear of Ollie Watkins and like the battering ram that he did for the first 70 minutes of being him on the pitch that I think caused the issue, where it was a clear game plan where they understood, Bayern are going to try to be aggressive. They're going to try to push us into the final third and try to condense the pitch as much as possible. In Aston Villa's third, the quick outlet is the way to go because their weakest players, and on the day, were the weakest players for Bayern Munich, were Min Jae Kim and Upamecano. and both individually were getting consistently sussed out by Ollie Watkins, which forced Neuer up to where I need to be the extra sweeper keeper, pushed him too high to when John Duran come on, still got bullied by them, but kept him out of position. So even though, yes, I do think Neuer could have been in a bad position, for me, the fault really lies in the center half's ability to be with the dual striker positions. And for me, the way that Watkins and John Duran are able to, it's like kind of like a perfect tag team where Ollie Watkins for the first 65 minutes every comes to games and beats the shit out of the guy to the center backs, and then John Duran comes in for the final punch, and that's why again, I'm not to say that he doesn't have the quality, but he's in a very favorable position of what Watkins does to help tee up what he's able to do later on and how they could potentially have contrasting but complementing styles. So absolutely lovely from Aston Villa. But I to speak about Bayern Munich as well, if you ask Vincent Kompany, if your team played this well, would you be happy? Not looking at the scoreline. We blank out the scoreline, but your team created these opportunities. 70% possession, outshot, had XG. Would you be happy with it? Yes, absolutely. So it's just it's process versus results. And I think Vincent Kompany should be happy with the process, but and shouldn't really take a step back. That's why they brought him in, even though he had not had great success over as a manager. They signed him and brought him on as manager because of his ability to kind of play in a type of football that they find attractive and the fans would enjoy. So hopefully they stick to it. But for me, the area of the pitch they need to be worried about, and why I was surprised they let De Ligt go, is how weak they are at center half right now. It seems like that's been a consistent theme for not just this season, but for several seasons. So very curious to see how they evolve, how they adapt, because there may need to be some adjustments because they have all the attacking talent in the world, maybe some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. When you're talking about players like Harry Kane, Olise, Gnabry, Leroy Sané coming off the bench, that's a litany of options. So again, full credit to Aston Villa. Love their game plan. It was, again, they play that game 10 times. They probably lose 8 of them. But because of the players that they signed, because of the way that they've been able to build their team, they still have those chances. And they've done it exceptionally well. So definitely great to see.
So what I'm hearing is Vincent Kompany, player manager, to show up the defense for Bayern Munich for the rest of the season. I'm kidding. But of course, it is a long Champions League season. Currently, Bayern, Barca, and Real Madrid hold the 15th, 16th, and 17th spots in the Champions League table right now. So things will change. I'm sure they will. So we'll keep an eye on that. So let's take a quick break here, boys. We'll be back covering some of the Premier League games taking place this weekend. So stay with us, guys. Welcome back to Also Footy, guys. We are going to continue our podcast now, previewing some of the upcoming Premier League games taking place this weekend. Mac, I'm going to toss it to you first, even though this is a game involving Manchester United. We just finished talking about Aston Villa as well. This is a game between two teams that arguably are in very, very different runs of form. Man United, of course, just finished the game today, tied 3-3 in the Europa League away at Porto, whereas Aston Villa, of course, big win against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Mac, both games last season between these two clubs, Man U came victorious. However, do you see that, I guess, trend being broken in this coming weekend? What do you think?
I would be surprised if it wasn't. Let's play this game. Just walk me through this thought experiment. How many Manchester United players make the starting 11 for Aston Villa?
All.
I'm
just joking.
I think you're confused the other way. I thought what to say. Because again, I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling to find one. As of right now. For me, maybe who's depending playing on the wing, you might want to take Garnacho over a Jacob Ramsey as a winger. But, Amad Diallo versus Leon Bailey, tomato. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, there isn't... I would say if you look at the starting 11 across both teams, there is a clear better team as of today. There is a better manager as of today. I think for me, it'll be very interesting to see, is this going into an international break, I think after this round of fixtures, considering recent results with Manchester United, where going off and to be able to speak more about them, because we talked about them a little bit, Aston Villa a little bit, Manchester United, they had to sub on Harry Maguire while they were losing to help end up tying a game. And when that's we need help, let's bring on Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans while we're down a goal. I'm again, tactically, I was questioning the whole shit of that. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you need, that made no sense to me whatsoever. Ended up working out. You scored a goal from corner. right? Question is, why isn't Harry Maguire starting? Because he seems to be the most consistent center half at the moment, which is crazy to say, as how things have played out for Manchester United over the last couple of years. But in this individual fixture, I don't see a way out for Man U at the moment. Maybe I've just been watching too many of their games. It hasn't been going well, but the patterns of play, individual performances, like you even had help in this most recent game from Diego Carlos, who literally gifted Manchester United a couple goals, and they immediately squandered it. If you saw it, both goals were at his near post, and he should have saved them both, and they still end up squandered. So it's for me, I am so torn. I don't see a way out as of right now until, for me, after this fixture, if Manchester United don't pick up a result, and we have an international break where they're going to spend 2 weeks sitting down, it's like, did we make the wrong decision by not letting go of this manager during the summer? And that's the whole conversations everyone's talking about as of even before what happened today, time of recording, when they did end up tying FC Porto. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm stressed out just thinking about Manchester United and all the problems that they'll have. So for me, I'm going into this game, to be honest, if I'm a Man U fan, as damage reduction. Hopefully we don't lose the game by more than 3 goals. Like that's where I'm at right now. I'll be honest. If that's where it is.
Well, we've heard the very gloom and doom from Mac's side of the Man U portion. Gio, I'm gonna give you slightly better news.
Okay.
Rashford, Hojlund, and Harry Maguire scored for Man U in today's game. Bruno Fernandes tried his best to get suspended in his second competition, back-to-back red cards. However, I just did a quick search. He will be eligible to play against Aston Villa. So, does this change your perspective on what would happen this weekend? Let us hear your take.
Hat trick of red cards.
That is a great question, and the answer is no. Because look how I think the bottom line is as a Man U fan, do I feel a little hard done by some of the red cards that were issued? Absolutely. I think that's why it got rescinded, because they look back at it and say, okay, that was a mistake, maybe on both ends, referee and VAR. It looked a little questionable. Okay, let's do the right thing and do this. But has Bruno proved otherwise, that he is deserving to be on that pitch more than, say, another midfielder? I can't say so either. Has his performances kind of validated why Man U gave him a contract extension? I can't say so either. So there's just a lot of things, it's one thing after another. They're struggling to maybe catch a break, if that, in any way possible. But like Max said, there's not really a positive thing to look forward to with this game, especially coming from, for any Man U fan who is optimistic per se about, the potential outcome. It's not looking too good. It's not looking too good at all. You've seen what this Villa team can do against the top clubs of Europe. Maybe not even the top clubs of Europe, but just being in a new setting, being in an uncomfortable setting, they have come out and they have balled out. So, if Ten Hag obviously doesn't deliver, could be curtains this weekend, boys. Could be entering international break without a manager and coming out with a new one. So be prepared for that.
On that note, traditionally a lot of people's takes is the best time to make a managerial change is right before an international break, because the manager will have an extra week or so to sort of prepare. But of course, we know sort of what the options are out there, what managers have been linked to Man United. I'm kind of torn because I think Ten Hag, and we talked about this before early in the season, I think Ten Hag should be given till at least December. But if it's a bad result here, I would not be surprised if he gets the basically let go from his position at the moment. But it's tough because, like, very much how you guys are pointing out, I think Aston Villa are definitely favorites for this game. I'm interested to see how Aston Villa is set up in terms of they don't necessarily at the moment play with out and out wingers per se. They'd have box-to-box midfielders who can provide that width. So that might make it easier on Man U, I guess, in terms of the defensive responsibilities for it, whether it's Diogo Dallo or Mazraoui or anyone who plays on the wings to sort of track those runs. But again, you're going to have Ollie Watkins and, of course, John Duran, who's on a hot streak in terms of scoring. They're going to cause problems for this Man United team. So, and with players sort of come back from injury and not really up to speed, one of the things that I would have to give Ten Hag in terms of the benefit of the doubt is maybe a lot of the players are carrying small injuries, so they're not fully fit, and it's just a bad result because they're not ready to go at the moment. It's not going to be a favorable matchup to return in this fixture, of course, because Aston Villa, like you guys have been saying, great start to the season, 5th in the Premier League so far, 4 wins, 1 draw against Arsenal. I believe, I think they have 1 loss. I can't remember who they lost to, but
Arsenal.
Was it Arsenal that they lost? Okay, yeah.
Arsenal.
So they're definitely a team no one in the league wants to face at the moment. I don't really see another result coming out either. Are there any other specific matchups or anything else you want to point out from this game, Mac?
So I'm just looking at what is the hope? Like, if you think about what could turn around and why would you continue to let this train happen as like train wreck happen as what's happening with Manchester United is what is the best individual section of any game that we've seen thus far this season from Manchester United? It was the first half against Crystal Palace, which they ended up going on to tie the game. And when you look at underlying numbers, it's poor because you're looking at, as of right now, they're still at a negative goal difference with -3 as of right now. So that's a continuing trend from last season as they were playing hopscotch, just staying around 0, -1's a +1. When you look at expected goals, if you rank them in the Premier League thus far, after 6 games, they're at -0.04. So they're creating just slightly fewer chances than they're conceding. And that's, if you put that average out in the Premier League, 10th. So even if you look at it as like, oh, we're not maybe having the luck of the draw, some favorable moments in terms of what you're expected to score versus what you're expected to concede, they're lower mid-table. So what is the shining light that, oh yeah, this could change because because there has been a knock or there has been an injury. This has been consistent now for 18 months where they've played like this, that they've had these types of results. So what is the underlying theme that, or kind of sphere or like paradigm shift that could change it where suddenly they're performing a whole lot better? I don't see it. So again, not to continue to kind of throw mud at on Manchester United, even though I do enjoy it. It's just I don't see the change. Whereas for Aston Villa, if we look at kind of and we use those same metrics on terms of like expected goals thus far this year, they're positive 3.1. They're behind in order: Liverpool, Tottenham, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. So they're right in the cream of the crop of where they should be. So for me, it's just the disparity between these two teams, it could not be further. Could we be surprised? And this is another last gap save from a Man United manager to stay on and pulls out a rabbit out of hat, picks up a win. That gives him another what, 2 months maybe? Could very well happen, but is that going to solve the long-term problems? Doesn't seem like it.
Well, we'll have to wait and see for that fixture. But another game that I want to bring up for us is, of course, the team that Man U lost out to last time out in the Premier League. Spurs, they are going to be going to Brighton this coming weekend. They are currently 8th and 9th spots in the Premier League. Spurs are 8th and Brighton are 9th. Gio, I know you weren't here in our last podcast, but of course I want to get your takes on how Spurs have performed so far. They did get a win today, day of recording, in the Europa League. Son is likely missing this game, but they have perhaps another standout player in Brennan Johnson, who scored now, it looks like 5 goals in 5 games. What are your takes for this game, Gio?
I think they. Sorry,
guys. My mic was on mute.
But you're doubled up on Discord. Just mute on Discord, sorry, Joe.
Okay. Sorry about that. In terms of Son, I know they won 3-0 against Man U. But this is a different matchup, obviously. Because who's as bad as Man U? But to be fair, don't get me wrong, Brighton can score goals, but I just think Spurs can score more goals. Now, I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be very back and forth. Could be another 5-goal matchup for Brighton, 6-goal matchup for Brighton. Again, there's a lot of holes with Brighton in terms of their defense. Yes, they can go forward very well, but they are struggling to defend. They're struggling to defend well for very long periods of time, and I think they're too eager to go forward. Just kind of dumping the ball and going. That's all they really kind of focus on. And you know who that is a bad team to play against? It's Spurs, because Spurs love to play the high line, love to play that counterattack. And then obviously with the confidence flowing after a 3-0 win, Spurs are going to look to take advantage early again. Van de Ven loves to push up as well and likes to contribute on the offensive end. So could be long days and could be a very fun game to watch if you're a fan.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't see a 0-0 at the very least. That's the only thing I can say for this game because, like I just said, two very high lines played by these two teams. I think last time out, Brighton got burned by Chelsea with their high line. I don't see that really changing, and the same goes to Spurs, really. And I know that Son missing is going to be a big miss. And so my joke is, how many chances will Timo Werner miss? Because he did miss quite a few against Man U. Spurs do have Dominic Solanke, who has been playing quite well. And so for that reason, I want to edge Spurs for this fixture. Mac, maybe you can sort of give us your takes as well.
I agree with edging Spurs. Here's for me where the game will be won or lost. It's going to be in the defensive third for Brighton as they have possession, because those two teams, they play expansive or attractive football in two very different ways. Where Spurs want to win the ball back in the final third, kind of overload, create a lot of pressure, force you to go long, and then have the speed with Mickey Van de Ven or Christian Romero to be able to kind of clean out anybody that kind of goes long over the top. Whereas Brighton, what they want to do is try to draw you in to then play a quick 1-2 down the line to be able to create for one of their wingers to be able to kind of get at either a center half or wide back. So I think that how they actually are going to play to get against each other, the way that they play open, expansive football is in complete opposite ways, which I think it's going to be where it's just a matchup of styles of who better in the Brighton as they break out. Is Spurs press more effective enough or Brighton not clean enough on their touches in the midfield to be able to break through that first two layers to then get into the final third and get at, I would say, a Spurs team where you could create opportunities against them if you're good enough in that area of the pitch. So very excited to see what happens there. I do agree. The only result I don't see is a 0-0. I could see either of these teams winning 4-0 or the game tying 4-4. But I don't see a 0-0. I completely agree. But the area of the pitch I'm trying to figure out how I view the game will be played is when Brighton have the ball in their third and how they're able to attract Spurs, break them down, play around the corners, and then eventually kind of hit them on the counter in some ways.
Yeah, so of course, two very, very big games taking place this weekend. Again, a lot for grabs because not only will these two teams be battling out for 3 points, there's an international break coming up, and so both teams will want to end up on a high note going into the international break, so the fans can, of course, have something to hold on to for that week without club football. But this wraps up our podcast for today. If you guys like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at @house_of_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, get in touch with us via email as well. houseoffooty@hotmail.com is our email. Next time you hear from us will be next week when we review this weekend's upcoming Premier League action. But until then, thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Peace out.
Thank you, Gio.
Bye-bye, Ten Hag.
See you guys soon.